So this track features a tabla part. Which I created using a loop that came with Logic Pro. So I didn't have to hire anyone or play it myself. I chopped up a tabla sample and resequenced it so I have my original pattern, but I still had a problem, which was that the sound around 860 Hz was jumping out. Without my treatment, this is how it looks and sounds. Do you see the sudden spike of energy in the mid-range? I had to get rid of that using a Bell EQ. I also applied a high-pass filter, which is to gradually remove the energy below 180 Hz. It's switched off now. There's a little too much bass. I'm gonna switch it back on. This is so that there's enough room for kick drum and bass, which are important for dance music. This is the bass part, and I wanted to show you the swing 16th notes that I used in this track. I'm gonna re-quantize all the notes here to the regular 16th notes without using any swing. And it looks like this, and this is how it sounds. Do you notice how robotic and unsexy it sounds in comparison? Now with swing again. I don't know what other people would say, but I would describe the effect of swing as laid back. The intro of the track also contains a part I call noise. It's made with the white noise from a synthesizer. The purpose of the green curve there is to influence the bandpass filter, which is placed after the synthesizer here. Because of the bandpass filter, only a portion of the white noise passes through and becomes audible. You define a frequency on the bandpass filter so that only the sound around that frequency is audible. And you can move around that defined frequency using a curve like this. This is the other notable feature in the intro, and this is how it sounds with the band. I'm playing it through an instrument called ES2 within Logic Pro. Let me show you how it sounds without some of the parameters I have set on it. It's gonna sound horrible, okay? It's quite stagnant, right? There's almost no movement of pitch. Now I'm gonna enable those parameters again. By doing so, I'm creating pitch movements by the use of tools like envelope and LFO, which stands for low frequency oscillator. Alright, again with the band, motherfuckers. The first A section is where the lead instruments appear for the first time and stays the main theme. In the first half, there are 3 instruments doing it, including a guitar, a synth, and an organ. In the last half, another synth joins and doubles the melody. This is the hi-hat part, which also appears for the first time here. Hi-hat samples are usually assigned to F-sharp, G-sharp, and A-sharp keys on MIDI keyboard. Here, I'm using the F-sharp and G-sharp keys, as well as the G, to which I have assigned the same sample as F-sharp. I like using extra keys. In the last half, I start using the A-sharp key, which has the open hi-hat sound. first B section is where the Turkish part of this track is introduced. By Turkish, I mean that I'm using the instrument called saz. Saz is like the Turkish version of lute, and lute is an instrument like guitar but with a round back. In the last half of this section, an organ joins and plays the theme from the previous section, so that there is a little counterpoint moment happening between the two themes. This section also contains this, something I call Reverb FX. Here's how it sounds with the band. I often use this at the end of a section to give the music a little momentum for going into a new section. Here's how it looks up close. And I'm gonna show you how I made it. The first thing I did was to correct some sounds to which I can apply a thick, long reverb, like this. And in this case, these sounds are the tabla sound here, and this guitar sound, and another guitar sound, and lastly the sound of saz. Then what I did was I exported the thick reverb sound generated from these four instruments. And then I reversed that exported clip, so I have a sample that gets increasingly loud. Here is the second A section, which basically has the same contents as the first A. However, the synthesizer labeled EFM is playing one octave higher than it was before. Also, the guitar only joins in the last half here. Another difference is the use of the ride cymbal. The ride cymbal has this long sustaining driving sound that I like to use, although sparingly. In the second B section, I'm using an instrument called sculpture, which is different from the more common type of synthesizers in which you work with electrical waveforms. In sculpture, instead of the waveforms, you work with the models of string vibration. The materials for your virtual strings can be wood, glass, steel, or nylon, and you can mix them freely too. Here's my example. This is a mixture of all four materials. Now I'm gonna pick one of them at a time. Here's the wood version. Here's the glass version. Here's the steel version. Here's the nylon version. And the mixture again. Another feature of the second B section is the use of the sample I collected from nature, namely the sound of the chirping crickets and other insects I don't know the name of. I hope you agree that their voices are quite unlike anything else, and in this particular sample they add energy around 5,000 and 11,000 Hz in the frequency spectrum. The second intro features the guitar part I recorded using a guitar with altered tuning. The chord at the moment is D7, And I can play D7 with a normally tuned guitar, but if I change the tuning of the top 4 strings from D, G, B, E to D, F sharp, C, D, voila! I have the D7 with open strings only. And this is great because open strings sound beautiful. They have this particular sonic characteristic that I love. Moreover, my attention doesn't have to go to the left hand anymore. I am occasionally fingering the first fret of the third string to get the sus4, but that's about it. The rest of my attention goes to the right hand, which does the arpeggio. What I did at the end of the first and second intros is to play parallel chords like this. To play parallel chords means to play a sequence of chords which are all of the same quality but transposed. In the third A section, the lead instruments are mostly playing in unison, with the exception of the Saz adding some extra phrases. This track as a whole, by the way, is based on the D Phrygian dominant scale, which contains the same notes as the G harmonic minor scale, but with the tonic on D. The third B section uses the kick drum, whose low frequency energies are kicked out. I applied diminuendo on the shaker part. It gradually decreases in loudness over time. And the guitar arpeggio I mentioned earlier returns at the end of the third B section. I'm making the most out of this part that I worked on so hard, man. So that's about it in terms of walking you through my new track, Tabla Saz. I hope it made sense and you enjoyed the rest. Thank you.